Hello everyone and welcome to part 8 of the Amazon project. This time we're returning to the rear axle mounts. This is the front mount for the lower links. To keep the frame tubes from collapsing, I have over-engineered a tube to go through it. Currently I'm holding everything in place with a long bolt from my mill accessories. Last video I also started on a second piece to make this a double shear connection. I went through it briefly, but today we'll make some actual progress on it. The idea is for it to sit on the other side and get welded into absolutely everything else around it. But first it needs to be shaped up quite a bit, making some quick marks as a visual guide, and then it's off to the mill. Obviously you could do this with a hacksaw and a file, but this is way more fun. First side done, roughly angling up for the second side. It's not a fast process, but I definitely enjoy how easy it is to get things shaped up. And even with a 1200 kilogram mill, you still need to take it somewhat gently and step your way down. Would probably have been much faster to just hacksaw it off and then finish it in the mill, but that sounds a lot like manual labor. With the part being an odd shape and hard to clamp, I realized I need to drill some holes. For spotting them, since I have quite a bit of stick out, whilst the position isn't critical, I don't want to snap my drills from them wandering around. Then on to drill a decently large through hole. My idea is that I will plug weld these to the car for more surface contact, but it's way too thick of a piece to just weld as it is compared to the car chassis. So the next step is to countersink quite a bit with a 25mm drill. This will both thin out the material and make it easier to get in there with the welder. I find these larger drills scary as hell to run on the CNC, because unlike a drill press, you have no feel at all for how things are going, until a drill just jams and or explodes. After a quick cleanup, this is what we got. 4 holes for plug welds, 1 bonus hole that isn't needed, and 1 hole for the link mount. I wasn't quite happy with the depth and finish of the plug weld holes, so I tried going at them with a countersink. Slow going, but leaves a good finish, which in this circumstance is completely unnecessary, but fun. Note how I'm using the stud in the back to make sure the workpiece can't grab and get flung around. These are dangerous tools and they will hurt you if you are careless. Quick cleanup again, and then it's just a rinse and repeat for the next hole. Once that was done, I erratically decided to get rid of the mill scale. Best way I've found for this is sanding discs on the angle grinder. There's extra thick ones with some blue grit that works quite well. I think it's zirconium based, lasts much longer than aluminium oxide in my experience. And with that knowledge, I still decided to use the regular alloy oxide discs here, making it take much longer. You can see how it's become dull and loaded up with crap instead of cutting. The reason in this case is I don't have rough grit zirconium, but I have a whole pile of these cheap ones in that grit. A whole lot more sanding and most of the mill scale is gone, making both welding and paint way easier. I also spent a bit of time chamfering any corners that will get welded. This is just to ensure a good weld penetration. Also, that smaller hole close to the edge will be filled in later. It's not supposed to be there. And obviously I need to make a copy of this, but mirrored for the other side. To help place this, I want to bolt everything together and then just tack everything. I'm also tired of my mill bolts being tied up in various places of the car, so I decided to make some temporary custom bolts. Since I started with a pretty long bar, I need to support it from both ends, so I'm starting with a center. And yes, the center is way larger than it needs to be. I keep snapping the small ones and I can't be bothered to align my tailstock properly. I pulled the shaft out to length and put it into a live center before I started working on its diameter. Just taking a tiny bit off so I can double check that I'm doing this correctly. Analog dials always makes me so confused compared to digital readouts. Everything looked correct, so off we go. If only it was this fast in reality. Checking quickly again so I didn't make a massive cone, but it looked alright. Since it's such a long and slim part, I didn't get a very good finish. This can somewhat be remedied with sandpaper or emery paper. again one of those things where you want to be careful, because if you get lucky, the lathe will just remove a finger or two if you get stuck. With the shaft mostly of the correct diameter, I split it into two and start working on the threaded end. Real proud of the camera angle here. Great job! What I'm making is basically just a run-off garter for the end of the thread. Since I don't have the correct threading die, I had to do this the tedious way. I'm sure you get the point, there was a lot of passes here. Eventually I had a working M14 thread, so I cut the shaft down to length and drilled out a nut that was a close fit. Then just some welding and we have one of many makeshift screws. Things moved slightly when welding, so I squared the bolt head up in the lathe afterwards. With that custom bolt done, it was time to fit the bracket we started the video with. To make sure I can get everything in place later, I'm spacing the brackets out with some washers. After harsh discussions, I finally got everything in place. This custom bolt is a bit tighter than a proper one would be, simply because I want the fit up to be firm. With the link tightened down and axle already placed where I want it, everything should now sit properly for some welds. Just tacking things for now, aiming for sturdy enough to hold its own, but still easy to remove if something's wrong. And with that, these two sections should be pretty much done. Let's see what we tackle next time. Thanks for watching.
But now, yeah, make all the demons quiet, yeah, we were built to thrive, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah, make all the demons quiet, yeah, we were built to thrive, yeah. But now, yeah, make all the demons quiet, yeah, we were built to thrive, yeah, I think that we've all had enough.